live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets for Thursday, April 21st, sponsored by our good friends over at SleeperHQ. If you're not familiar with Sleeper, it is one of the fastest growing fantasy platforms today with millions of players. And now you could win on Sleeper by playing their new over-under game. It's a lot of fun and it's very easy to play. So first, what you're going to do in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether you think they're going to go over or under their listed number. So, for example, the number of points in basketball, the number of hits in baseball, the number of strikeouts, the number of rebounds. And then all you have to do is pick whether it's going to go over or under whatever the listed number is. Then you're going to choose the amount of money that you want to wager on the contest. And depending on how many picks you have, you could win anywhere from 2 times your money to over 20 times your money if you pick 5 out of 5 correctly. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where you can join your buddies in a contest and you can all play together. It's got a built-in group chat where you can see and copy whatever your friends are playing just with the tap of the button. This function is called Squads, and you can actually look in the description of this podcast right now and sign up for the FTN Betscast Squad so we could all go over and win some money together. What you want to do when you get over there is make sure you use promo code FTNBets, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100, meaning you put in $100, they will give you another $100, so you now have $200 to play with. So again, download the Sleeper app, use promo code FTNBets, make sure you sign up for the FTN Betscast Squad so that we could all play together and see what everybody's on here. There are terms and conditions that apply, so make sure you read Sleeper's terms and use of service for details before you sign up. Now, with that being said, we got to talk about some of the NBA action we got tonight. We got 3 games today in the NBA playoffs. The first game we're going to talk about here today is between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Grizzlies are on the road, but they are a favorite in this series. The series right now is tied up at 1-1. Minnesota took the first game. Memphis came back and blew them off the court in the second game. But you know what? At the end of the day, I mean, Minnesota did exactly what their job was. When you're the road team in a series, you want to go in and you want to make sure that you win at least one of those 2 games, because effectively what you did now is you flipped home court advantage. By taking one of the games in Memphis, now Minnesota gets to come home. There are 3 home games now in Minnesota. If they can win those 3 home games, they can move on to the next round. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, because even at home in this game here, Memphis is actually the favorite over Minnesota. You could get Memphis right now. There's a lot of -2s in the market. Some of them are actually juiced down, but you could find a couple -1.5s. DraftKings has it at -1.5, -110. Caesars has it at -1.5, -110. So if you're interested in playing the Memphis Grizzlies side, you can get over to either one of those sites. That's the best price you can find on them there. Minnesota, you can still find some +2s at -110 if you wanted to bet on the Timberwolves here. +2, -110 is the number that PointsBet has. I think that's the best number out there in the market if you're looking to play the spread on that side. As for the total here, let's see. This opened at 238. It's down to like 236, 236.5, depending on where you look. If you want to play an over, 236.5 +100 on Caesars, best price you can find there. If you wanted to play an under, 236.5. Pretty much everywhere else is at -110 on the under. So you could play that in quite a few books here. These teams have played 6 times this year. They've only gone over this number in 2 of those 6 games. So if you're asking me where my lean is here today, I'm going to have to say my lean is still on the under at 236.5. Again, I don't mind the fact that it's down a little bit here. I wouldn't chase it if it starts steaming all the way down to like 234, 235. But at 236.5, I do still think the under is playable here. And again, that is the side that the money's coming in on, because it opened at 238.5 and is now down to 236.5. As for the prop bets, there's a couple interesting things here in the prop market, and I wanted to talk about it. And it all hinges around one man, and that one man is going to be Steven Adams. So Steven Adams played very badly in the first game. He did play 20-something minutes in that first game, but his stats look like somebody who was only in there for about 5 minutes or so. He could not guard Karl Anthony Towns. Towns basically had his way with him in the first game. And that was one of the big reasons why I think Minnesota was able to win that game. So there was an adjustment made in the second game. Steven Adams did start that game, but he only played like 3 minutes. And then I think what Memphis realized is, listen, he cannot guard Karl Anthony Towns. So to have him out there on the floor, it's just not the series where Steven Adams is really going to help this team. So they went a lot smaller. Guys like, Xavier Tillman, and the guy that we're going to talk about here right now, Jaren Jackson Jr., who was basically playing as a center in that game, guarding Karl Anthony Towns and being the big guy who is doing a lot of the damage for Memphis. And that's going to bring us to the first prop bet that I'm looking at here today. And that is going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. over 6.5 rebounds here. This is my favorite number to play him at right now because, again, he played less than 30 minutes in that last game because that last game actually turned a blowout in the other direction where Memphis wound up winning by, I forget what the final score was. It was something like 20. It might have even been closer to 30 by the end. I don't know. So the starters didn't play as many minutes as they normally do. So take some of those stats with a grain of salt because they should have actually been higher. They should have actually had some of those starters scoring more points and maybe some of those bench guys not playing as much, assuming the game is going to be a little bit closer here today than it was the last time out. But even with that said, Jaren Jackson Jr. did get over this rebounding number, and I think he has a chance to get like close to a double-double here today. 6.5 is the number that we're looking at here. BetMGM has it out there at -110. I think that's a really good number on Jaren Jackson Jr. I would go over and take that. And this is also one of those that I think is really good for the over-under game on SleeperHQ. They have him at 6.5 rebounds as well. Assuming everything works out the way I think it should, which is maybe Steven Adams does start again here today, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be in there as the center early. If he's not in there as the center at the start of the game, which again may get announced later on today. So that's why I want to take this number early here. If he does play 30 plus minutes here, I think he goes over the 6.5 number easily. I actually don't even hate the 15.5 number on his points too, but I think the rebounding one is the better one here, given the way that I think they're going to use him here today. So I love this Jaren Jackson one because, again, Steven Adams can't guard Karl Anthony Towns, and Memphis knows this now. So Memphis is going to have to go smaller, and that's going to mean a lot more minutes for Jaren Jackson Jr., which also means a lot more rebounds if you're taking Steven Adams out there and putting him in there as the center. Now, speaking of rebounds, I also like Karl Anthony Towns to go over 10.5 rebounds. -115 at BetMGM is the best place you can find that price. 10.5 is also the number that they have on Sleeper. So I like this one as well if you wanted to play this as an over too. Right now, this number is already moved up at some of the sports books to 11.5. It's at even money. It's a little above even money on FanDuel. It's at even money on Sugar House and Bet Rivers to go over 11.5. Now, again, on Sleeper and on BetMGM, we only need him to go over 10.5 here. So I think we're getting some really good value on the over on this number here. So I like it on BetMGM, and I definitely like it on the Sleeper app as well as one of the things I'm looking at. And then the third over-under that I'm interested in here today is actually Anthony Edwards points over 23.5. This is -120 on DraftKings. Sleeper also has it at 23.5 as well. It's as high as like -135 or -140 on Unibet. Some of the books already moved this up to 24.5, and it's 24.5 at a juiced up price. Like FanDuel has 24.5 -114. Caesars has 24.5 -116. So they're even saying this is more than standard juice right here. So if we can get it at 23.5, that's just such a good number right there. Like I said, DraftKings has it at -120, and I do like the over on this as well. Over on the Sleeper app where you could play it there as well. Anthony Edwards, one of the few guys on this team that could put up some big numbers, and I think he's going to have a big bounce back game here with the series moving back to Minnesota and then playing at home. Let's see. The last thing we could talk about here would be the price on this series. After Memphis was -125 when they were down 0-1 going into game 2. After the win in game 2, Memphis is now -240 to win the series. Minnesota up to +190 to win the series right now. I mean, listen, the time to bet on it. I know our boy Marshall over at FTNBets was on it at -125 when Memphis was down 0-1. And that was a smart play on his part. Memphis is the better team in this series. At this point, though, I'm not chasing it at -240. I'd rather be on the Memphis side than the Minnesota side for this game 3 here. And -240 is just not a number I'm going to be interested in. So let's move on to the next game here. The next game here is the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Utah Jazz. We got to start with the big story here, and that's Luka Doncic being questionable. From everything that I have read this morning, he is a true 50-50 game time decision. which really kind of sucks for us because it makes it very tough to break this game down, right? Because if Luka plays, you got to expect that he's going to play big minutes. You got to expect that the ball is going to be in his hands quite a bit, as it has been all season long. And it's going to knock down some of the guys who have taken a big step up without him, namely guys like Spencer Dinwiddie and, Jalen Brunson, who's been just absolutely amazing in the first 2 games of this series here. Those are 2 guys that are going to take a big hit if Luka plays. So until we find out what's up with Luka, there really isn't much that we can talk about here. I mean, I'll mention some of the prop plays that I'm looking at or I'm interested in. But again, it really all hinges on whether or not he's going to play. And that's the same for things like the spread and the total in this game as well. If Luka's in there, that's going to change the way that I look at, whether or not Dallas can knock off Utah on the road. It's going to change the way I look at, the scoring there. So there's a lot of things that we really can't break down here, but we'll give you the numbers anyway, and you guys can make your decisions here. Like I said, I didn't hear anything one way or another about Luka. Everything I'm reading says he's literally a coin flip kind of decision tonight. So if you're interested in betting on Dallas today, +7 is the best number you can find in the market. FanDuel and Caesars both have +7 at -110. If you're looking to get money down on the Utah side, you can find some -6.5s out there at -110. PointsBet is one, Unibet is another, Bet Rivers Sugar House also -6.5, -110 on the Utah Jazz. This total opened at 209. It's the one total on the day that's actually a little higher than where it opened at. Currently, basically everywhere in the market, you can find this at 210.5 at a -110. So everywhere in the market, it's 210.5, -110 on the over and the under, depending on whatever side you want to be on. Got to be honest with you guys, I don't have a lean one way or another here. If Luka comes in, maybe I'll run the numbers again and see if it comes up with a big edge one way or another. But I think that the 210.5 is the right number. I thought 209 was a little low. I had it at 211. So I'm basically on market right now. So let's see. With that being said, we could talk about some player props, I guess, here. Like, Brunson is one of the guys I wanted to talk about. Brunson took 24 and 25 field goals in the first 2 games. They don't even have any of his numbers listed today. There's nothing listed on the Sleeper app for the Dallas side because of the Luka information. There are no props that are up in the prop market because of it. There's really nothing that we can use here as guidance on what we think is going to happen until we get that info on Luka. But, if you could get Brunson at like 21 points maybe when it comes out, I think that would be a number I'd be willing to bet over on. I wouldn't want to go much above 23. So like 22.5 would probably be like the fair value number for me. So if it's below 22.5, I think you can play the over. If it's above 22.5, I actually think that's probably a little high, and the under would be the way to play it there. But again, we probably won't get that number until we get some definitive news on whether or not Luka plays. And that might not even happen until warmups here today. So I don't know how that's going to turn out on that side. There are a couple things on the Utah side that we could look at here, though. Donovan Mitchell over 29.5 points is another over-under I like here today. In the first 2 games of this series, he's taken 29 and 30 field goal attempts. So this is a guy that's putting it up there as often as he can. And the thing is, it's not just that he's taken 29 and 30 field goal attempts. It's that there's only every game besides him, there's only been 2 other guys that have hit double-digit field goal attempts. Bojan has done it as well. Bojan Bogdanovic has done it as well in both games 1 and game 2. One game you had Jordan Clarkson, who took over double-digit field goal attempts. The other game you had Mike Conley, who took double-digit field goal attempts. But besides those guys, really, and even if you add them, if you add up the Bojan field goal attempts with the Conley or the Bojan field goal attempts with the Clarkson field goal attempts, they still come out to less than the average number of shots that Donovan Mitchell's taking. Just to give you an idea of how many shots and how big a piece of this offense Donovan Mitchell is right now. He's had over 30 points in each of the first 2 games, so I don't think the 29.5 is a bad number to take here. So I'd be interested in the over on the 29.5 for Donovan Mitchell, especially if you're playing it over on the Sleeper app. Royce O'Neal is another guy that I like here. Royce O'Neal is averaging, 34 minutes a game so far in this series. I think he played 37 in one game, played 31 in the other game. And both of those games, he's gone over 4.5 rebounds. He had 6 in one game. He had 9 in the other game. You can get the over 4.5 rebounds on Royce O'Neal right now at -125 on DraftKings, which is the best price. It's as high as -134 on Unibet. And some sites like FanDuel even move this up to 5.5 rebounds instead of 4.5 rebounds here. And they have that juiced up a little bit too. I think it's like +115 or so at the 5.5 number. But definitely something that I'm interested in here. Royce O'Neal over 4.5 rebounds. I like the over on that Royce O'Neal number. And then the last guy I'm looking at here, I don't know. I mean, Rudy Gobert is interesting to me. Like, he has not scored well in this series. I don't think he's had double-digit points in either of the first 2 games. So stay away from any of that, double prop stuff with him because of the rebounds that that he's putting up. But he has had 2 monster rebounding games. He had 17 rebounds, I think, in both of these games so far. But his over-under number here is 15.5. So you got to get 16 just to cash that. And there's not a lot of room for error here, right? Like, he's got to go out there and have another monster 17 rebound game or 16 rebound game or more in order for you to get paid off on this one. So, I mean, I have a lean there. I do think that this is a good matchup for Gobert. If this was like 13 or 14 rebounds, I'd be like, yeah, we're getting in on this. But man, 15.5 is a big number out there. That is not an insignificant number of rebounds here. So I just don't think there's any value left on that one. So if you're looking for some of the over-unders to play in this game, Donovan Mitchell over 29 points, Royce O'Neal over 4.5 rebounds. Those are the 2 that I'm most interested in here. So let's see. Let's talk about the series price real quick here. This series is tied up at 1-1. Utah is home now, so they did their job. They won 1 game in Dallas. They got it back to Utah here. So, again, they technically have the home court advantage in a 5-game series going forward. And again, really, like, anything you want to do on the price here comes back to whether or not Luka is going to be playing. If Luka's not playing, I cannot back Dallas in the series. If Luka is less than 100%, I cannot back Dallas in the series. And I have no idea what Luka is going to be like if and when he does come back. So again, I understand why Utah's the favorite. I think they're a deserving favorite here. Do I want to play them at minus 215 though? No, I definitely don't want to play them at minus 215. It is a better price maybe, but again, it's just not great. Like, I'm not in love with this Utah team. I think they missed their window here. Donovan Mitchell would really have to pick it up and carry them like he did when they were playing in the NBA bubble in order for me to have a little more faith in this team. And even the surrounding pieces around them, like Rudy Gobert's offensive game, never really taken that step forward that people thought it would. He's not really a threat to score much. Conley, as much as I love Mike Conley, he's getting a little bit older. Maybe not as dominant as he once was. He had a really bad game. I think it was game 1. I don't even think he scored in that game. He was in foul trouble. Like, it's just there's just not enough here outside of Donovan Mitchell and maybe Bojan Bogdanovic, who's a solid secondary piece on the wing and a solid secondary scorer. I just really don't see how this Utah team makes much of a run. And even in this series, like, I would not be shocked if Dallas, if Luka comes back, Luka starts playing well, and Dallas wins the series. So I'm staying away from the series price here. So now we can move on and talk about the last game. The last game is the Golden State Warriors taking on the Denver Nuggets. Golden State is up 2-0 in this series. They won the first game by like 16 points, the second game by about 20 points. They are just much the better team, in my opinion. And I feel like this is the situation like we saw last night with Toronto and Philly. The Golden State Warriors are only like a 1.5 point favorite on the road here. And I like that number a lot. I would play Golden State minus 1.5. BetMGM is where you can get it at 1.5. Most of the other books have this at -2 out there, but BetMGM has it at -1.5, -110. So I like the Golden State Warriors there. If you want to play the Denver Nuggets side, PointsBet actually has this at +2.5, -110 over there. So that would be the place that I would go to get some money down on the Denver Nuggets side. PointsBet +2.5, -110. Golden State Warriors, though, the better bet, in my opinion, -1.5, -110 over on BetMGM. The total in this game opened at 224.5. You could play an under at that's exact number 224.5 on BetMGM. That's the best price there at -110. You could play an over about half a point below at 224. DraftKings, PointsBet, and Caesars all has it sitting there at that number. So let's talk about some of the prop plays here. I don't really have anything on the Golden State Warriors side. I like Jordan Poole, depending on what the number is for him on the overs and unders today. Jordan Poole would be a guy that I'd be interested in. Dropped like 30 points in each of the first 2 games. He's been absolutely unreal. My only holdup here is that, you had Steph Curry come back, right? And in the first game, Curry didn't start. He came off the bench, played a few minutes. I think as this series goes along, Curry's minutes are going to start to ramp up a little bit, and that's going to come at the expense of other guys. And again, if Curry's on the floor, the ball's going to be in his hand. He's going to be taking some field goal attempts, which is going to take away from the ball being in a guy like Poole's hand and him doing all the creating and scoring for himself out there. Now, he will still get a chance to do that at some points without Curry on the floor, and he will probably get a chance to do it alongside Steph Curry on the floor as well. But like I said, my biggest problem is I don't know how the minutes are going to work out, and it's very tough to do projections and say, hey, this guy should be over or this guy should be under when you don't know if your minutes projections are going to be right. And right now, with the way that this Warriors team is, I don't know if I could really project minutes. I mean, you had Draymond out for a good portion of the season. You had Clay out for a good portion of the season. You had Otto Porter who was out. Now you have some of these guys back. And you got to see how the minutes all work out. And even the games that we've seen of them so far in the playoffs, remember, they're trying to work Steph Curry back in there. So that you can't really trust any of the numbers that we've seen so far, because it's not likely that those numbers are going to be repeatable going forward in the exact same kind of ratios. So it makes it tough to look at the Golden State side. But I do have two things on the Denver side I'm looking at. My first under of the day is going to be under Nikola Jokic, 29.5 points. Now, again, could he score over 30? Absolutely he can. But we've seen him already score 25 and 26 in the first two games. And it's not like he's not taking shots. I mean, he took 20 shots the other day just to get himself to that 25, 26 point level. So I just don't like the number. I mean, we would need 30 plus out of Jokic here today. And again, can he do it? Absolutely. But this is a guy that can get in foul trouble. This is a guy that could have a meltdown and get thrown out of the game for some technical fouls. And he's also a guy that the other team is concentrating on, because without guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray in there really aren't a lot of secondary scorers on this team. Like Aaron Gordon, very athletic, very good defensive player, very solid rebounder. Not really a big time scorer though overall. Monty Morris, Will Barton, like the other guys that are out, Bones Highland, the other guys that are out on the floor with Jokic, they're just not big enough threats that teams really have to worry about it. So what teams have been doing is kind of concentrating on stopping Nikola Jokic. And, that makes him a little more of a facilitator, which again, when you have guys that can knock down shots like a Jamal Murray or a Michael Porter Jr., him being a facilitator is not a bad thing. But when he has guys on the other end that aren't as skilled or talented as scorers, it kind of hurts a little bit. But that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to limit the damage that Nikola Jokic does and let other guys beat them. So that's why I like the under on Nikola Jokic here today at 29.5. Another bet that I like here today, though, I do like the over on Will Barton for pretty much the same reason. Barton had 24 in the first game, only had 12 in the second game. But the thing that gives me a lot of confidence in him here today, he took 15 and 18 shots in those two games. That puts him at number 2 on the team in field goal attempts through the first two games of the season, the first two games of the postseason. And I think it's going to have to continue here. Like I said, they just don't have a lot of other guys that can score. So if they are going to wind up, keeping this game close or having a chance to knock off Golden State and win a game or two here, they're going to need that secondary player. And Will Barton is going to be that guy for them. 15.5 is not a big number for a secondary scorer on any team, especially a guy that's taken 15 to 18 shots per game so far. So I like the over on Will Barton points. I like the under on Jokic points and the over on the Will Barton points. As for the series price, we have the Golden State Warriors right now at minus 1,600, the Denver Nuggets at plus 950. Like I said, I put the bet in on the first game on the parlay between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Golden State Warriors. That was a bet that we liked on the series prices of those two. At this point, with a series price of minus 1,600, there really isn't any more money to be made here. I like Golden State. I think Golden State wins the series, but the time to bet on them has come and gone. At this point, you're just kind of hoping, and not even hoping, just waiting for the next series to see what kind of price we can get there. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for our NBA breakdown here today on the FTNBets Cast, sponsored by SleeperHQ. We're going to take a quick break and be right back to talk a little bit of MLB action. And welcome back to the FTNBets Cast here at FTNBets on Thursday, April 21st, sponsored by our good friends over at SleeperHQ. Remember, if you haven't yet, go download the Sleeper app. You can get it in the App Store right now over on iOS. You download the app, you use promo code FTNBets. If you use promo code FTNBets when you sign up, they will match your first deposit of $100, giving you $200 to play with. And they have their new over-under game right now, where right now is basketball going on over there for the over-under game. So if you listen to the first part of the show, we talked about some of the over-unders that we liked here today. You can go, you pick 2 over-unders that you like, one from one game, one from another game. You can pick two from the same game, although the payout's a little bit lower if you do same game ones. But you could pick two over-unders, and you could get 2 times your money if you're right on both of them. You could pick up the 5 over-unders, and if you get all 5 of them right, you can win up to 20 times your money. It is by far the best payout in the entire industry of all the companies that have games that are very similar to this. And the thing that I like about Sleeper the most is that you can join a squad over there. And basically what a squad is, it's like a group. You get all your boys together, you put them all together in one little squad there, and you could actually see if I make a play, if somebody else makes a play, you could see who all your friends are betting on. And then whoever the smartest or the hottest, and I don't mean hottest by best looking, I mean whoever's winning all their bets is the hottest. You could tell whatever that they're going in on. So you could see if they take Karl Anthony Towns or, Nikola Jokic or whatever numbers they're taking, rebounds or points, and you could tail along with them and make some money that way. So I think it's a great way. It's a good thing to do if you got a good group of friends together that you normally, play some fantasy sports and stuff with there. You guys could all be together in one chat room. You could talk about who you like, and you guys could all play the same thing if you want. That's the way that it goes. But definitely make sure you download that Sleeper app, and definitely make sure that you use promo code FTNBets, because that'll get you that bonus on your first deposit up to $100. Even if you only put in $20 or $50, they will double your money there. So you'll have 40 or 100 to play with. But I think anytime that you're putting money into one of these things and you're getting a bonus, you should always try to put in whatever the max bonus is. So putting in the $100 and getting the $100 max bonus is what I would recommend. Remember, Sleeper HQ, get over there, get it in the App Store right now. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk a little bit of MLB baseball. We already went through the NBA playoff slate. So let's take a look at the baseball action that we have up on tap for today. The first game that we're going to look at here today is going to be the Chicago White Sox against the Cleveland Guardians. Chicago is favored on the road, minus 150, all the way down to minus 140 on PointsBet, best price we can get there. If you're looking to get down on the Cleveland side of this game, plus 125, plus 130 on DraftKings is the best number you can get there. This is Dylan Cease, who pitched very well in his first start, going up against Zach Plesac. So this is a pretty good pitching matchup here in this game. I also kind of like the under here because I like both of these pitchers on the mound. I do like I do like the Chicago offense, not as high on the Cleveland offense overall. So I do like the under here. And then obviously I would like the Chicago White Sox, as you guys know, very high on the White Sox this year. Let's see. Next game up, the 7-5, my 7-5 New York Yankees taking on the 4-7 Detroit Tigers. Jordan Montgomery on the mound for the Yankees, and former Yankee Michael Pineda on the mound for the Detroit Tigers here in this one. Yankees are a pretty decent favorite in this game. Minus 175 is the high, minus 165 is the low. DraftKings and PointsBet is the best place to get this price, minus 165 on the New York Yankees here today. The Detroit Tigers, if you want to be on that side, best price we can get there, plus 150 on Caesars. Best price for the Detroit Tigers. They're plus 140, plus 145. Most of the other places out there in the market, but Caesars plus 150 is the best number there. Next game up, the San Francisco Giants at 8-4, taking on the Mets at 9-4. Anthony DeSclafani on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. Carrasco is going to be on the mound for the New York Mets. Mets are a favorite in this game, minus 140 down to minus 134 on Unibet is the best price you can get if you're looking to play the Mets here today. If you want to be on the Giants side of this game, plus 115, plus 118 is the best number there. You can get that at Sugar House, Bet Rivers, or FanDuel. All three of those sites have it at that plus 118 number. Next game up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Boston Red Sox. Gaussman against Hawk is the matchup we have there. Hawk, remember, can't play in Toronto because he has not been vaccinated, so he missed his last start. But now that they're back in Boston, he's going to be making his start here today. This is basically kind of like an even game. Slight edge to the Red Sox here, I guess. Actually, slight edge to the Blue Jays here. Blue Jays are minus 110 to minus 115. Minus 110 being the best number you can get on them. DraftKings, Unibet, Bet Rivers, Sugar House all have it at that minus 110 number. For the Boston Red Sox, you can find some minus 110s, some minus 105s. The best number, though, FanDuel, minus 102 on the Boston Red Sox. So, like I said, even at home, the Red Sox are a slight underdog here. Not a big underdog. I mean, you're talking like 51, 52% to 48, 49%. So, not a massive change here. Like I said, both of these teams are at minus money here. but the Red Sox minus 102 on FanDuel, best price we can find on them here today. Next game up is another afternoon game. The Minnesota Twins taking on the Kansas City Royals. Ryan going up against Zach Greinke in this one. Let's see. I'm surprised to see that the Royals are not favored, even with Greinke on the mound here. But Minnesota is a slight favorite, minus 130, best price you can find on them. Bet Rivers Sugar House, the place to go to get that. I like the Royals in this one. I would take Zach Greinke at plus 120. I think there's a little bit of value here on that number. I also like the under in this game as well. I think this is a pretty good pitching matchup between these two guys. So the under 8, I think, is the total here. You can get that at minus 105 in a couple different places here today. I like the Royals a little bit at plus 120. I like the under a little bit as well at minus 105. Next bet here, next game, I should say, the Baltimore Orioles are taking on the Oakland Athletics. We got Wells against Blackburn is the pitching matchup in this one. I actually think there's a little bit of value on the Baltimore Orioles side here. You can get them as high as plus 110 on FanDuel right now. They're basically even money to plus 105 on all the other books. So that FanDuel price does kind of stand out a little bit at plus 110. And I think there's a decent amount of value there. I wouldn't chase it much below that. Like I wouldn't take it at plus 105, but if you can get it at plus 110, I think there's a little bit of value left in that number. For the Oakland side, Oakland is favored at home. 125 is the high, minus 121 is the low. Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House, you can get them at minus 121 on the Oakland Athletics. Next game up, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Washington Nationals. Davies against Rogers is the pitching matchup here. Nationals are favored at home, minus 130, basically almost a standard number across the board here. And I think that's a pretty good number too. I actually think there's a little bit of value there on the Nationals at minus 130. I wouldn't chase it higher than minus 140, but if you can get it at minus 130, I think that's a good number to take here. Diamondbacks are plus 110. They are pretty much plus 110 across the board here. So if you do want to bet on the Diamondbacks, you can get them basically at any one of the legal books at plus 110. Like I said, I'm on the other side of this game, though. I like the Nationals at minus 130. St. Louis Cardinals plus 120, best price on them. They are plus 105 to plus 110. Most of the other places in the market against the Miami Marlins here today. Hicks going up against Pablo Lopez is the pitching matchup in this one. Let's see. If you're on Lopez and the Marlins, minus 125, minus 130, minus 140 on DraftKings. What's the low number here? Minus 122. Here we go. Minus 122 on Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House. Best number to play those Miami Marlins if you're interested in playing them in this game. Two more games to talk about here. We got the Pirates going up against the Cubs. Wilson and his 5 ERA on the mound for the Pirates. Leiter and his 17 or 18 ERA on the mound for the Cubs. So this is obviously not going to be a very good pitching matchup here. Depending on how the wind's blowing, we might even be looking at the over in this game. We'll have to check that a little bit later. A little early in the day to worry about what the wind's doing in Wrigley because, I don't know, we probably still got another 12 to – they're not actually probably not 12, probably like 10 or 11 hours before that game starts. We never know what the wind's going to be doing there, but I do think that there'll be some runs scored here. Chicago is a big favorite in this game. Minus 165 is the high, minus 148 on Bet Rivers and Sugar House is the low. If you want to be on the Pirates side, plus 140 is the best number you can get there. DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, Caesars all have them at plus 140. I am not interested in playing the Pirates side. I don't really want to play the Cubs side either. I'd rather just play the over in this game. But if you did want to play a side, the Cubs at minus 150 seems to be a little bit of a value compared to like the minus 165 they are on FanDuel overall. And that brings us to the last game of the day, which is going to be the 2-9 Texas Rangers taking on the 7-5 Seattle Mariners. Hearn is on the mound for the Rangers. Gonzalez is on the mound for the Seattle Mariners in this one. The Mariners are as big as a minus 145 favorite. The best price on them is minus 130. You can get that on BetMGM, PointsBet, and Caesars, minus 130, best price on the Seattle Mariners. Texas Rangers side of this game, plus 110 to plus 115. Plus 120 on Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House is the best number to play the Texas Rangers side. I don't have a lean in this game one way or the other. If you forced me to pick, I would take the Seattle side of this game. But again, at minus 130, I don't really think there's a lot of value there. But that is the side of this game I do think people would rather be on and should want to be on if they're going to be picking on one of those sides. So there you go. That wraps it up for all the MLB action that we have here today. Remember, you can get over to FTN Bets right now. Use promo code Benny. You can save 20% off on any one of our packages, not just on FTN Bets, but also on FTN Fantasy and FTN Daily. If you're looking for the best sportsbook bonuses, ftnbets.com/sportsbooks gives you the deposit bonuses on all the legal books in your state. And if you're in a state that doesn't have legal sports betting yet, you know, the daily fantasy games that you can play, some of these over-under games and stuff, is a good way for you to use some of the same information and some of the same stats and charts and graphs that we have over at FTN Bets in order to make some money in a different way by playing some fantasy games with it. And SleeperHQ, our sponsor here, is one of those places. Remember, get over, download the Sleeper app. Once you download the Sleeper app, you can join the squad. You can look in the description. You'll see the squad for FTN Betscast sitting right there. Join the squad, deposit $100, use promo code FTN Bets. That'll get you another $100 from them. So you'll have $200 to play with, and you'll be able to mess around a little bit with the over-unders on the squads on Sleeper and hopefully make yourself some money over there and have some fun with your friends as we try to get everybody listening to the podcast all together in that squad over there. So there you go. That wraps it up for today's edition of the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by SleeperHQ. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.